The playoff final, the most transformative game in world football. But what has happened to the last decade's worth of participants in the big Wembley showcase? Huddersfield and Forest meet in the Championship playoff final. We've spoken repeatedly about the contrasting consequences of winning or losing this particular game. Winning teams have the riches of the Premier League to look forward to. Losing teams can be very, very quickly dismantled, and instability can be very, very quick to manifest itself. Let's have a look back at all of the participants from the past decade. Let's try and have a positive outlook here. So we'll look at the winners first, and we'll look at the good news stories there. And West Ham and Crystal Palace are frankly the inspiration for every team that goes to Wembley over the course of the past decade. Palace won in 2013 and have been in the Premier League ever since. West Ham can go one better. They won in 2012. 10 straight seasons at the top level. 3 European campaigns. They're going to be there again next season. Aston Villa won the 2019 showcase right in the nick of time, and they go into their 4th Premier League season in a row. Last year's winners, Brentford, made a pretty good start, 13th in their first season in the Premier League. And this year's finalists, Huddersfield, won it in 2017. They were up for 2 seasons. As you can imagine, with the playoff winner ultimately being the lowest ranked team in the following year's Premier League, there are a few straight back down tales. So here are the not so good news stories for the playoff winners. And we did have 3 years in a row of straight back down playoff winners. QPR in 2014, Norwich in 2015 and Hull in 2016. All were relegated the following year from the Premier League. Hull is probably the worst case scenario, the only winner actually in the past decade to have spent time in League One. Also, never a dull moment there. Fulham appeared twice on the winners list and also twice on the straight back down list as well. They managed to win the playoffs in 2018 and 2020 and get relegated in 2019 and 2021. What we do know is that a playoff win should, at a merely competently run club, elevate that club above the majority of the rest of English football, even if they are relegated quickly. In the current financial landscape, the place to be is obviously the Premier League. But look, if you can't be in the Premier League, be in the Championship with parachute payments. Before we look at the teams that got to the final and lost, why not hit that like button and support the video and the channel. We're going to look at the losers now in the past decade's worth of playoff finals. And I have spoken here about the potentially catastrophic consequences of losing. However, there are examples of clubs who have lost in the playoff final and were able to bounce back very nicely from that defeat. Middlesbrough lost in the final in 2015 under Aitor Karanka. They stuck with the Spaniard and he got them automatically promoted the following season. In recent seasons as well, both Brentford and Aston Villa have lost the final only to come back, get to the final next season and win it. Villa lost in 2018, but with a combination of Grealish, club size and some big loan players forced their way up the following season. Brentford lost in 2020, won in 2021. Their story was a little bit more one of consistent and incremental improvement at the club. Watford's 2013 playoff run is far more remembered for that incredible Troy Deeney goal rather than the ultimate consequence, which was a defeat in the final. They then dropped down to 13th the following season, but the season after that got automatic promotion. I don't know whether we can link the two together, a bit of a crazy one there. Derby lost in 2014 to that infamous Bobby Zamora goal and then appeared in the playoffs 3 times in the next 5 seasons. But that's not the whole story on Derby. More on them in a minute. Before we get to the proper horror stories of playoff final defeat, we'll quickly mention Swansea's dropped down 11 places from last season's 4th place finish to this season's 15th. Probably not fair to judge them either way yet. We'll know more about Swansea maybe in about 6 or 9 months' time. The real problematic playoff final stories, however, particularly in these past 5 years or so, are those clubs that flew too close to the sun. Yes, they all rolled the dice. That is true. But it's also true that they rolled them in a pretty unbalanced game where the rewards and the temptation can seem to justify the risk if you win. Reading lost the 2017 final on penalties as well. What a what-if moment that is. They've been close to relegation since they were deducted 6 points for a profit and sustainability breach last season. They'll start next season with a bit of a weakened squad and under an approved business plan with the EFL watching every move they make. Sheffield Wednesday is a similar story. They lost in the 2016 final to Hull. That near miss was as good as it was going to get for the Owls, and unlike Reading, they did not survive their 6-point penalty and gear up for a second straight season in League One after losing in the third tier playoff semi-finals just a week or so ago. And then there's good old Darby. We did mention their 2014 appearance, which they did bounce back from quite well, but the 2019 final appearance under Mel Morris was really the beginning of the end, the big sliding doors moment. Defeat to Villa meant they were going to stay in the Championship, and it meant a real restructuring at Derby, the continuation of Mel Morris's perpetual battle with the EFL, which ended with him frankly admitting defeat, throwing his cards in, putting Derby into administration. 21 points of deductions, and they will start next season in League One, having been in the playoff final 90 minutes from the Premier League just 3 short years ago. It could be worse. It could always be worse. Blackpool and their defeat in the 2012 final was the best chance really for the unpopular Oyston ownership who wanted to get back into the Premier League, but they wanted to do it on the cheap. They missed that chance, and I'll be polite and call them thrifty owners, but they killed the goose that laid the golden eggs. And we're in League Two just 4 years after losing in the Championship playoff final. Get your comments in on any of those teams and the influence that this one gigantic game had on the future for those clubs. It could have been the springboard for a sustained Premier League run like West Ham, Palace, maybe Villa are doing now, or the horrible sliding doors moment that signals the beginning of a long and painful decline. In answer to the title of the video, where are they now? Literally speaking, I will give you the numbers. Over the past 10 seasons, there have been 16 different playoff finals. Obviously, a few repeat teams in there. 5 of the 16 are now in the Premier League. Brentford, Fulham, Villa, Palace, and West Ham. So just under a third, I guess. 8, which is exactly half, are still in the Championship. Swansea, Reading, Hull, Norwich, Borough, QPR, Watford, and Blackpool. Although I think you'd all admit a few of them have been on windy journeys to get back to exactly the same division that they were coming at that Wembley game from. 2 of those teams are in League One. Derby and Sheffield Wednesday will kick off in the 3rd tier. What's your views on that? Is it as catastrophic as I'm making it, losing it? Or does just the mere mention of saying which league the team is in now tell us really the whole story? It probably doesn't, does it? Finally, there's Huddersfield, our 16th team, and we're not 100% certain exactly where they will be next season. They'll hope to be in the Premier League, but Nottingham Forest fans will hope that they're still in the Championship next season. We'll find out on Sunday, and if you want to see my preview of the game, you can do so right here.